Good morning, aloha, and welcome to Lucy's Paradise Podcast. Before we start, I want to do a little sponsorship announcement. So I am now sponsored by Legion Athletics. Legion Athletics is an American sports nutrition brand catering to professional and amateur athletes. Legion sells a variety of nutritional supplements, including pre- and post-workout, fuel, protein bars, superfood boosters, and sleep aids. They also sell meal plans to help you reach your fitness goals, like losing weight or building muscle. This popular company is notable for their transparent approach to sports nutrition, which is why I really wanted to get involved with them. Legion Athletics clearly labels and explains the ingredients, all of their snacks and supplements. They also share why they use the ingredients they do, so you can understand the science behind their products, going so far as to include scientific studies in their product descriptions. Created by health and athletics expert Mike Matthews, Legion Athletics has become very successful, selling over 2 million products to over 300,000 customers through their official site. Free shipping, free returns, well-researched product line backed by a team of physicians. Use code LucyD for 20% off your order. This is at legionathletics.com. And yeah, just wanted to shout that out. We have today Nick Zaborski. Nick was the very first person on the podcast before. And on the first podcast, we kind of discussed a little bit about his life, living here in Hawaii, and how he got started with diving. So welcome back, Nick.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
I like the new studio. You're moving up in the world, as I see. I miss Nobu, though. I miss having your dog.
Yeah, the little distraction.
Yeah, I wish you could bring him in.
Yeah, he's at daycare.
How is he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, good to be here.
Yeah, thank you again for coming. I kind of wrote a little bit about your company that's off of your website, and I did kind of want to read that if that
absolutely.
works for you, just so people get a better understanding. So Nick is the creator of Legion Undersea. It is a veteran-owned company comprised of commercial divers and marine professionals, drawing upon a wide array of skills obtained in over 75 years in every imaginable maritime environment. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that, like about the company itself?
Yeah, we're a commercial diving company. We do underwater construction, support for the scientific community. A lot of kind of found our niche in the scientific world. You know, with doing a lot of research and development and archaeology type things. But we're a full service company. We do ship repair, what we call underwater ship husbandry. And I just got back from doing a project overseas for the Department of Defense. We just did a MIA recovery of a World War II plane that went down 80 years ago.
Dang.
Actually, we were out there for the 80th anniversary of the
Have they
plane
ever
going
been there before, like down there?
There was a prior recovery done by our partner organization, Project Recover. So there are conduit to the DoD. So what happened with Project Recover is back in 2008 was the first time I did an MIA recovery on a B-24, also in Palau. That was discovered by this organization called Bent Prop. At the time, they grew and morphed into Project Recover, which is a consortium of a lot of different entities. Like they're partners with Scripps Institute of Oceanography, University of Delaware. So it brings a lot of the greatest underwater minds and technology all together to do a lot of wide area search and locating of all these underwater sites. And then they got big enough to where the DoD was going to let them start doing their own recoveries, actually managing an archaeological dig on land and underwater. So they needed some underwater muscle. So they were introduced to us. Right around that time, we had started our company, John and I. I'm the co-creator. So yeah, we started this company, started growing, getting bigger. We started doing underwater construction and then started getting into working for the Army Corps of Engineers. So as we're growing, so is Project Recover. They need an underwater asset, and it seemed like
Where are they based?
California,
Oh, okay.
like San Fran area.
Wow.
So we got together on a phone call and just decided like, okay, this is too good to be true. And then the DoD has the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, which is a mouthful, but DPAA is actually here at Hickam, where they're based out of. Man, what an amazing place that is. That facility is really something to see. It's very impressive. It's actually very emotional.
Can anybody go there, or is it?
I think you have to be invited.
Okay,
as a
okay.
partner, I've been there a couple times, but I got to see the central ID lab where they actually do
Wow.
the forensics, and it's one of the world's most high tech ID forensic
Oh, wow.
labs. Like there's a lot of techniques that were actually developed there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you see all the cases all laid out on the tables. Like remember when?
So it's kind of like almost like a museum of sorts, like for the past.
Well,
Not-
there is a museum there where they have a lot of artifacts from all the different past conflicts that you can go into. But then when you go actually into seeing the guys in the white coats doing the work, it's very much a working lab and feels that way. And then one of the the part that really got me was there's this room at the center of the facility. And I was told that the architect designed it to be at the heart of the facility because the families are at the heart of why they do what they do.
That makes sense,
This
yeah.
genius architect just made this really cool room right in the center. So connected to the ID lab is this viewing room, and you go in there, and what they'll do is they'll put a picture of your loved one, your family member, and then they'll bring in the remains. And then the family can have a private moment with, whomever. Like for instance, one of the forensic anthropologists there, this guy named Rich Wills, cool guy that I've known for about 20 years. He's like, yeah, the other day there's this girl in here, and she's like, wow, I'm gonna get to meet my dad. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, my mom was pregnant when he left for Vietnam. I've never met my father. I'm about to meet my dad for the first time.
Oh,
So
shit.
so it's just this room that, you just have to stop and think about all the effort that went into all those moments that take place in that room. And it feels like a very sacred place. And
Yeah, totally.
but you just think about all these like talented people, all the logisticians and all the historians and all the archaeologists and anthropologists and deep sea divers and mountaineers and all these guys and women that just put all this work into making those moments happen. It just seemed like a very sacred place. And
Yeah, it's good that they like value that moment that's crucial for any grieving process, because I'm sure a lot of the ways that they discover like certain things is like not ideal,
sure,
and then but that sounds really interesting.
I think it's also something that's very like uniquely American. There's other countries that have similar programs now, like Japan is repatriating their warriors from past conflicts now, but they're copying the American model. A few other countries are also, but I think that's something that's really makes us who we are. That we don't leave people behind. We're not like, okay, you're laying in a foreign land and we're just gonna forget about you and move on. We don't forget, and we'll go to the ends of the earth to get you home to your family. And I'm honored to be a part of that. Yeah, it's kind of you can't help but feel emotionally stirred by seeing that. Witnessing it firsthand. I think our country, well, I don't think, I mean, it's obvious that we're very we're very divided now. And, you know, you turn on the news and all you hear about is all the things that we're doing wrong. And there's plenty of things that we're doing wrong. You know, we seem to be off track in a lot of ways, but I also think we focus on the negative things. You know, there's a lot of bad actors in the world that are getting a lot of attention, but I think all the people that are doing the right thing and are dedicated and working really hard to make the world a better place don't get enough credit. And it's nice, you know, with all the things that our country does wrong, you know, I think it's nice to see our country get something right. And this is one thing that we're nailing, you know, that we're definitely doing.
Do they have their own dive team too on Hickam? They
do. DPA does have underwater recovery capabilities, but they're limited. So it's easier to, or it makes more sense for them to contract out things that are more specialized. Like, for instance, if you need to do a job with a dynamic positioning system ship, you know, and saturation diving and very like complex, you know, niche equipment, it makes more financial sense to contract that. So someone, you know, finally dawned on them where they're like, oh, well, instead of like trying to maintain these capabilities ourselves, why don't we just find find a square peg for the square hole and just contract it? So they created partnerships and innovations department, which is the contracting wing of the Defense POW MIA accounting agency, and that's the funding that, you know, funds Project Recover. Project Recover basically subcontracts us as a partner, if that makes sense.
Because they probably need more divers, right? Or
well, they have really good divers. Or
do you have like a specialty?
Army master divers and Army guys over there. They're great divers, but you know, one dive team can't do everything. The different jobs require different specialties.
How long can like a group of divers like do some sort of, like, what is the longest mission you've been on, like in the water? Like, is there like a limit for that? Like, do you guys have like
for this one specific, or
just in general? Like, do you have like a general limit of like, okay, like everybody?
Oh no, we could do
there's like
multiple
no
years. I mean, we just rotate guys out.
No, but I mean like I'm talking about like a specific, like, let's just say you have a specific goal or job or whatever, and you have like a group of guys and they're the first ones that are going to go in the water. Is there like
the
a
bottom
limit
time for how long you can stay in the water?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Okay,
like
so
what that is.
It depends on the diving method and the techniques. Like if you're diving a rebreather, you know, you have a different dive table. If you're diving scuba, it's a different dive table. If you're doing hard hat,
okay.
whether it's
so it depends.
You're breathing
on
air
what it is.
or like mixed gas.
Okay, I see.
Like our limit now is 300 feet with the equipment that we have. Like the last one we went on was around 100 feet, and we would stay down for 70 minutes. So you'd send 2 guys down at a time for 70, and then they would have about 45 minutes of decompression, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And then that's with us shifting to oxygen. So you do your decompression stops up to 30 feet, and then your 30 and 20, you switch the divers to oxygen, and it cuts your deco time in half. So that's pretty typical for a hard hat.
Is that an average?
Yeah, you have very clear.
That doesn't seem like a lot of time.
It's not. You have to.
That's crazy.
And it goes by like in a flash.
Right.
You know, you get down there, and you know you have an hour and 10 minutes, and you just get to work, and you're working like crazy, and then the soup will come on the comms and be like, you know, 30 minutes remaining. Like, what? No way, I just got here. It's like 10 minutes remaining. What are you talking about? It's like leaving bottom in 1 minute, 10 seconds. You know, okay, just try to wrap up what you're doing, and you're off. It just goes by in a flash.
It feels so rushed. Like, dang.
It is. Like
stressing the whole time.
So that's why we try to shave off minutes and even seconds. We just sit there and rehearse, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And like, like how do I maximize the time that I have?
Yeah.
You know, like putting little buddy tabs on your ratchet straps or something. Like, okay, I can shave 3 seconds off if I put this little tab on the duct tape. So I can just rip it off, and you hang everything off your chest. Okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to attach this and this. Just hang everything from you sequentially, and like, okay, you know, and then just rehearse it in your head. I'm going to do this, and then that's what makes a good diver is like if you can just go down there and produce.
Not
you know,
not waste time. Yeah.
do not waste time. Like every second down there, like there's so much resources that are allocated to get us down on the bottom and work hard. You know, plane tickets and hotels and planning and equipment and
Yeah.
you know, like just so we can be down there and you know make money on the bottom. So you just have to, you know, act parsimoniously with the you know resources that have been given to you. So
being down there, so you're down there for like 70 minutes. You come back up, right? Like 2 people at a time. How many cycles of that do you go through? Like,
usually do that about 4 or 5 times a day. What can speed it up is if you use a recompression chamber and do what's called surface decompression. So if you complete all of your stops, you know, you complete your 40-foot stop, you can pull the divers, and then you have about 5 minutes to get them undressed, and then into a recompression chamber, and then press them down to 50 feet. It's a little bit more decompression because of the break you take in the middle. It's a little bit longer dive for the divers. But once you have the guys,
what effect on your body does that have?
But once you have the guys in the chamber,
doesn't sound good.
You can put another crew in, so you can start another dive while the last guys are decompressing. If you decompress them in water, you know, you just have to sit there and wait.
Okay, so it cuts that time.
Yeah, you can overlap them if you do it that way. But what kind of effect does it have on your body? I mean, I don't know. Ask me about my surgeries. Well, it's pretty rough.
Just the decompression, just going to, you know, down and coming up. Like, I'm just wondering what kind of effect that has.
There's a thing called osteobaric necrosis, which is like
that does not sound good.
No,
at all.
No, it doesn't. It's like divers tend to get sort of like an advanced osteoporosis. Like divers can have bone density issues because as you're absorbing the pressure. So as you're absorbing nitrogen, it goes into your blood and your muscles and your connective tissues, and then your bones. So your bones will actually swell a little bit, and then when they off gas, they'll shrink back down. So that expansion and retraction causes you to have bone density issues if you do it a lot. It's found more in saturation divers, you know, guys that'll spend, you know, weeks underwater, under, you know, like very deep depths.
Right.
Which would make more sense. They have, you know, exponentially higher exposure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But having compressed gas absorbed into your bones and then back out is not the best thing for you. Yeah, I mean, I've had almost like 8 or 9 bone surgeries, like orthopedic or
really
neurosurgery. Yeah, yeah. Stay in school, kids. Don't be deep sea divers. Go be doctors and lawyers and such. Stay away.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, even being a doctor or a lawyer, like any way that you spin it, like your body has gets some sort of strain, right? If it's not osteoporosis and bones, it's mentally or by stress.
Yeah, nothing.
You know, being a doctor,
free,
making those decisions is stressful.
For sure.
But
I think I'm pretty happy. I mean, yeah, I'm a little beat up, but my
No worries, I got you.
Oh, sorry, bud.
There you go.
I'm always messing this up. I apologize.
It's all good. You're good.
Getting yelled at by the sound guy. Yeah, nothing's for free. Everything comes at a cost. I think I've had a really interesting, you know, an exciting life that I wouldn't trade for anything. I always say that I feel like I've lived 100 lives, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I'm sure like I don't know, there's something about being in the water too that like it just feels like time stands still. Like you probably, I don't know if you've ever felt this, like you come up out of the water and it feels like a whole year has passed or something. I don't know if you have it the other way where you feel like it's been like super fast, but
It seems, I think it's the opposite for me. Like time stands still, but it also just goes by really quick. You know, I've done 14 or 16-hour dives, and it's just like, oh, wow,
Jeez.
like coming up already? Like it's time?
16
Or-
hours?
or you start-
That's
yeah.
insane.
You dive at sunset, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, the sun's coming up. Like we've been in the water all night. Like that went by really fast.
Dang, that's
Time
crazy.
seems to really, really speed up.
What happens if you get hungry though?
Oh, you just ignore it. I mean,
So you're just starving.
you spend a lot of time when you have really long dives. You spend a lot of time thinking about what's for dinner. But most of that time, I was on a submarine. Some cooks are better than others on subs. You know,
So
some
it's not gonna
underways,
be-
it's like
it's not gonna be like
oh
a
man,
filet mignon or something
no.
great.
Sometimes
You're
it
like,
is, but sometimes it's corn dogs and chicken nuggets, and like that's not something to get too like excited about.
I get excited about corn dogs, but
I've
Yeah.
always said like the cook
corn dogs.
on a submarine is one of the most important guys. Like he controls the morale of that entire crew, and the morale dictates the operational efficiency. Like I'm not even
Yeah.
exaggerating. Like, you know, like there was a chief cook on the USS Michigan, and he was short. You know, he was getting out and didn't care. I was just like feeding us, you know, corn dogs and nuggets like day after day, and there was like almost a mutiny on the sub. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Usually when like the SEALs and divers would get off the sub, you know, we would go just like tear it up. It's like, oh, you know, what bar are we gonna do tonight?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
we
yeah.
got off that sub and we're like, oh man, I need a salad. Like I need to eat something green.
real. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there was this other dude. God, I wish I could remember his name. I would say it. He was so good. Like you know, he'd make some of the best ribs I ever had in my life were made on a submarine, believe it or
Oh
not.
my god,
This
he was making ribs.
big old Georgia boy, awesome dude, and just had a great attitude, and he was just like you know, working with the supply
that's
officer and
awesome.
getting
I
like
love
fresh
ribs.
fruit and
Wow.
and it just seemed like everything was clicking so well on that underway, you know, and like people
Yeah.
were in a better mood, so they're performing better, and everything was safer, and the whole sub was like just clicking. I really think I think being a cook is kind of an underrated job as far as importance operationally.
Yeah, I've experienced that too in the military. Like, I could see that. It does control the morale a bit. I think I had my birthday one time out in the field, and they just like had this sheet of like brownie that was like happy birthday, and I was like, well, oh, this is like the best they could do, but like,
Yeah. But you remember that, like, and you'll remember that forever.
yeah, probably. And you know, because it's almost like this is more memorable, this sheet of like mediocre brownies than like a fancy cake, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
Where was that? Where were you?
I think where were we? Kahuku, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere here. Yeah.
Doing land nav out at
No, we
Oh,
weren't doing
Kahuku.
we were doing like we were out like in, you know, doing field missions and stuff. But yeah, the cooks, I mean, they can't really cook up their own stuff, you know what I mean? It's whatever the army gives them, but you get some cool cooks and that they'll try to like, you know, I always made friends with everybody, so I was trying to like get extra shit all the time.
yeah.
Or like, you know, like the one good thing that they had, like, you know, whether it be like they had chips or whatever, I was always trying to get like more, you know, like the good shit. Like, everyone takes one, and I'm like, no, can I take 5?
Well, you're automatically in the Filipino mafia, so you guys always get a little bit extra.
Filipino mafia. Yeah.
You got to make friends with the Filipinos everywhere you go. That's the secret.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like an unspoken like thing too with all Filipinos that like we all have each other's backs.
Yeah.
I've been out to bars. I'm like, Filipinos I don't even know that like would buy me drinks and like probably, you know, food if I wanted. But it's just like it's weird, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Filipinos stick together, and like if you're in with them, they'll take care of you too. So that's always the secret to
That's funny.
a quality of life tip.
Stick together. It's not that
those are
we
my
stick
people.
together. We're just
Yeah.
all related. So we're like,
Yeah, white
That's
people
funny.
are all stabbing each other in the back. You guys are all taking care of each other. We could take a lesson.
yeah. It's actually, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah,
I was
it's a
gonna
whole
ask
nother
you,
podcast.
kind of like, and I know it's hard to come up with a memorable dive, but is there like dives that maybe specific dives that you think about more than others?
Oh boy. Well, geez, that's kind of like, I guess that would be like asking a police officer, like, what's a real memorable case? I mean, I have decades and, a whole career of dives, from the first time I breathed underwater and felt that sensation to my first dive in the ocean or my first night dive. I have like just beautiful,
Yeah, night
things that
dives
I've
would
seen.
scare me. I would think.
It's not that bad. Like it's kind of like anything, it's like when you're going on a deployment, you think, oh, wow, this is going to be really scary. And then once you're actually there doing it, you're thinking like, oh, okay.
I realize how bored you are.
It's not so, yeah, kind of boring. Yeah, it's not so bad. And it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
here actually doing this thing I trained for. And I was like that with night diving, decades ago, just looking at this inky black ocean. I'm like, oh my God, I got to go in there at night. Like I'm not going to do so well. But once you get out there, it's really peaceful. Different animals come out at night and, you see more things and you actually see better than I thought. So I remember just switching off all my lights and just kicking around in the moonlight, just thinking like, oh, I like night diving. And I've done it hundreds of times or more since then. So I think it's like anything. The biggest problem is you build up a lot of fears in your own mind, and then once you're actually there doing it, it's like, yeah, this is not so bad. But memorable dive, there's so
Maybe
many.
like a recent, I don't know, something that's like more recent than that to like help you narrow it down. Maybe in the last like year or something.
Yeah, a mission that we were on. Not this one I just came back from, but the one prior. Project Recover had these challenge coins that we brought down onto the site. Onto the recovery site. We left them in a little bag. So I still have one. It's got a little corrosion on it. A little rust from being underwater for a few weeks. And
Oh, like you found it?
no, we put them in a bag and left
got
them
it.
down. We're going to give them to all the team members at the end.
Oh, I see.
So the Derek, the CEO, was like, "Hey man, take this. Don't tell anybody. Just kind of stash it down there somewhere."
I see.
I was the last diver on the mission. I had the last dive, so I had a lot of stuff to do. I had a lot of stuff to hook up with the crane and send everything up, and I was dredging, and then they said, okay, pump's going cold in 10 minutes. 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then whoosh, the pump just gets shut off, and it's like, man, there's still guys down here. We just ran out of time and ran out of funding, and you only have the time that you have, and it's just this horrible feeling where it's like there's more work to do. When am I going to be back? And it's like okay,
the end
well,
of the mission.
it's the end of the mission. It's like, okay, well, wrap all this up, and then hook up this basket that we're sucking the sediment into, and then the archaeological team goes through and analyzes it and digs through and kind of like panning for gold, and is looking for human remains or whatever.
Yeah.
But it turned out that there was remains in that sediment basket. So as I was wrapping everything up, I grabbed those coins and just like shoved them into the sediment basket. Got everything done on that dive and everything wrapped up, and boom, left bottom actually like standing on that basket as the crane is pulling it up. Little did I know that that basket had human remains in it. So like our coins,
shit.
Have special meaning because it's like, wow, these things came up with, with these human remains. So I'm actually going to a funeral at the end of October for a guy named Lieutenant Manown. I can talk about that because it's been announced.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have a funeral for him.
Was he is this like a missing?
Yeah, he was a missing in action for
wow.
80 years.
Wow.
So the remains that were in that basket are the guy whose funeral I'm going to. Here in a couple of weeks. There was 2 other guys on that plane. Anthony DePetta. This really cool Italian family from New Jersey. I didn't get to go to his funeral because we're back in Palau.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for Manown. So I think I don't want to. I think what I'm saying is confusing. So first year we found DePetta and Mitz, 2 backseat guys in a TBM Avenger. It's a three person plane, and then the pilot.
I see.
We came back and got the next year
Oh,
the funerals were going on for the other 2 guys.
Mm.
I did make it to the Wilbur Mitz funeral in Monterey. Man, that was really something to see.
But that's gotta be hard. Like, what's harder, like diving and doing that part of the job, or then attending the funeral? Like, I don't know which one would be harder for me, because there's such a torn feeling of like being glad that you've brought that, their remains back to their family, but then like
dealing with people
weird.
And emotion and all that stuff is always harder for me than diving. It's like all the underwater stuff in this life I have handled. It's all the above water stuff that I'm not good at. But I'd say overall it was very positive because you get to see the ripple effects of all the hard work that our team and everyone supporting us.
Well, and the closure like of families is like important too.
Yeah, that lasts generations.
Yeah.
In my own family, I have a great uncle that got shot down in World War II, and I could always feel that loss in my family, from my grandma and my great aunt, that was their little brother, and you could sense that pain in them even as a little kid. Like my Uncle Phil, he came back one time from fishing and he had this huge walleye. I don't know if anybody listening knows what a walleye is. This is a freshwater fish in Minnesota. And, being a fisherman, I was just interrogating him like, how did you catch that? What'd you do?
Yeah.
Just
what bait did you use?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
where were you standing?
well, and he's like, I'll tell you, Nikki, here's my trick. And he's like, I leave the lure way back behind the boat, where it's all nice and quiet, and that's my secret. And if you watch how I run my lures on my fishing boat here in Hawaii, like I put them way back, and everybody's like, "Oh, why do you leave them back so far?" And it's like, it's the Uncle Phil method, and I catch a lot of fish. So like I learned so much from that guy, actually growing up with him. And if my Uncle Paul would have been around, like he would have been in my life. What did I miss out on? Listen to my granddad and him, 2 combat vets sharing war stories, and and little Nick is like listening around the corner to a conversation I'm not supposed to hear or something, like, but yeah, when you have a missing family member,
you hear just a little bit and you're like, yeah, damn Nazis, and walk away.
Yeah, my granddad didn't talk about it a lot until like right at the end, and shared. I was the only grandkid that was that ever served, so he shared a couple pretty wild stories with me, like right towards the end. But
I had
but they were in the
Uncle
Pacific.
Balon.
They were in the European theater. They were in the Pacific, like island hopping.
Yeah.
Towards as they were liberating the islands that were occupied by Japan. I wonder if they were in the island I was just on. I wonder if they had spent any time in Palau.
Oh yeah.
It's weird being there and seeing how everybody still lives in the shadow of World War II. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
all their holidays are like their Liberation Day. You know, when their island got liberated by the Americans, and
Interesting.
you see World War II tanks and bombed out buildings and stuff everywhere, and it just
Yeah,
it just
that
has
must
this
be
ubiquitous
strange.
presence. Like, how often you really think about World War II? Well, Hawaii is different. You know, we have Pearl Harbor, but
Yeah.
living on the mainland, you don't think too much about World War II. But
Yeah. I had
Yeah.
a Uncle Balan. He's passed away now, but when he passed away, he was 104 years old, I believe, 103 or 104,
whoa,
and he was in Korean War, World War One, and World War Two. Never.
holy cow!
Yeah. So I just remember him like just watching TV in his room, and he was deaf, and he was just there. He didn't talk to anybody really, which I wouldn't have talked to anybody if I survived 3 wars.
Yeah, how's he gonna
I
relate?
fucking talk to nobody.
Who's that
Like,
guy
shut
gonna
the
relate to?
F up. That's all I would have
Yeah.
said. Yeah. So I don't really have like really memories, but yeah, that was crazy. That's like just crazy
104.
to have somebody like that in my family.
God, but don't you wish, like, having your history now, he would look at you so
Yeah.
differently?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you only had a time machine, go back and talk to old Uncle Balan.
I know. Yeah. Would be interesting. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I have a lot of other people in my family too that are very impressive, but that's nuts. Like that's crazy. But
Yeah, yeah, I would love to talk. 104. Wow, what was his secret? Just
I don't know. I don't know that
whiskey
much about him.
and being
I have no idea.
angry.
I don't remember seeing him drinking or
Yeah.
like. I don't
It seems
really-
like those people that lived at like 110. They're like, I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. And
I know that it must have had a lot of influence on like my family, like my uncles and stuff, and my other uncles, and because they all really highly regarded a military service, which makes a lot of sense. And I think just Filipino families in general, like they hold like military service and stuff in high regards. And both my parents were military brats. My mom's stepfather was a Air Force officer, so I can see where like they hold it like really highly. My dad always wanted to join the military or go to West Point, and he fell out of a window when he was a child, so he was deaf in one ear, and so he was never allowed to.
oh wow,
Like he couldn't just go and enlist, But then his dream was to have a family. I think those are probably like his two adjacent dreams, right? So then when my brother got into West Point and went to West Point, that was like my brother fulfilling my father's dream,
heck yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pictures of my dad and my brother on my brother's graduation day, and my dad's just smiling like he's the one that graduated.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
That's a very like. That's got to feel good. You got to feel very fulfilled as a father. You wonder if you do a good job seeing
Well,
your
yeah.
son go off to West Point. That's
And one of my earliest
It's a
memories.
pretty good marker of you did something right.
Yeah, one of my earliest memories as a child is being on the field at West Point when all of the hats were being thrown in
that's
the air.
cool.
That's like my first memory of like, I just like, yeah, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it now, but yeah, it was interesting. That was always like my goal as a kid.
You just that left an impression on you, didn't it? That might be why you chose to serve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, when people thank me for my service, I never obviously didn't mind that I was serving my country, but I really have to say that I did it for the adventure. I obviously serving my country was a bonus, and really deep down, I was really just doing it for the experience, to travel the world and just live an exciting life. I more terrifying to me than anything I'd ever encounter underwater was the idea of having a boring life. I think I accomplished that.
Yeah. You have like the least boring life probably.
But
in 70-minute increments.
yeah, a lot of beautiful things, a lot of terrifying things, a lot of tense moments, a lot of stress. But yeah, out there doing it and still doing it. Getting out of the Navy, I just thought like, oh, okay, I'm gonna wind down and just take it easy, and that didn't last very long. It's like, oh man, I gotta do something.
I think certain people.
We talked about that a lot more on the last podcast, though.
I think so. Yeah, like just certain people, it's not ingrained in them to just hang out.
Kind of wish it was sometimes.
Yeah, I have
But
to
yeah, it's not gonna happen.
plan that time in my day, or like it has to be very structured, because then I feel like I'm not being productive enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely see that in you, where you have a hard time sitting still and not doing things.
I just have a hard time not progressing towards something. So
that's
even
that's
if
a
I
better way.
skip the gym for too many days, like then I'm like, okay, am I behind now? So there always has to be some sort of progression
Right.
in what I'm doing.
Always trying to better yourself. I think that's the key. That's the key to life. Always try to get better. Always try to improve yourself.
Yeah.
Always try to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about like Ocean Gate a little bit, and like your thoughts on that, or
That's the submarine?
the submersible, that imploded.
On the Titanic?
They I guess their mission was to, I don't mean to laugh, but like I would not get into anything
Controlled by a
anything
Nintendo remote?
that is like, yeah, we're gonna go to the Titanic, you want to come? That would sound like a horrible idea. I would have been like, no, that does not sound like it's gonna work, bro.
Strangely
What
enough,
is this made out of?
Strangely enough, my business partner, John, was working with Trident submarines just a few months before that happened, and he was helping refit the submarine for a company that owned a company called Blue Tide Marine that owned one of those mini subs, and he's rebuilding all the piping, taking it apart and rebuilding it. And I was like, what's the governing authority? Like, what standard are you doing this to? And he's like, you're not even going to believe it, but there's none. Like a plane is governed
Has
by
standards.
the FAA.
Yeah.
There's no like governing authority for underwater recreational vehicles.
No, there actually isn't. But isn't it? Yeah, I thought the community though, like, has enough knowledge base.
You would think.
That's what I thought.
Well, so
To know like
it's strange.
what
Like,
works and what doesn't.
him and I were just talking about it months before that, and it's like, it's strange that there's no regulatory body for manned recreational submersibles. Like,
Yeah,
there
it is.
obviously is for the Navy,
Because-
but for like, there's nothing stopping
Interesting.
somebody from building a submarine and diving, and there's no standard that things have to be made to. So to me, it's very simple. Like, if I'm gonna lift something with a crane, I have a shackle, right? I have a piece of webbing and a shackle that goes around a heavy object.
Right.
You know how heavy that object is, and you know what the safe working load is for the shackle and the webbing.
Right.
It's written right on it, and if it's not, then you don't use it. So there's a lot of metallurgy and science and testing that went into using a shackle. Like, say you're using one in the shipyard at Pearl Harbor. That thing has a certain periodicity where it's going to go back and get X-rayed. If you drop it, you have to turn it in. If it gets exposed to salt water, you got to turn it back in. It gets X-rayed and analyzed, and it's treated to a certain standard, and it has a safe working load of, say, like,
So it can still operate at
10,000 pounds.
Okay.
Its breaking strength is probably, triple or quadruple that. So it's like, okay, this thing will probably break at 40,000 pounds. We're going to call the safe working load 10,000. And then if you're like a good rigger, you maybe will do half or a quarter. So if I'm going to lift something that's 10,000 pounds, I'm going to put something on there that is rated to 40. So you're so like under, you're not anywhere near the breaking strength
Right. That makes sense.
of that actual object. So if you look at a bridge, right, a structural engineer will say like, okay, an I-beam that's this long and this big, over this span will support X number of weight.
Right.
There's a math that goes into things. So if you have a certain material, it can withstand a certain
So they should know that
a certain
with
pound per
things
square
that are
inch
underwater.
pressure,
Yeah.
and it should be rated to that pressure. I mean,
Right.
it's a very obvious problem that they were using materials that were not rated for the pressures that they were exposed to.
Right.
They were just kind of winging it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna lift up a
Yeah.
pallet of air cylinders, I'm gonna like stop and be like, okay, can this strap and this shackle, is it rated for this, and is it well under the safe working load?
It reminds me
It's
of
the same.
like
It's the same thing. Like the reason the thing imploded is it wasn't rated for the pressure that it was
pressure,
exposed to. It's just that simple. They didn't do the math.
Right. Yeah.
That's why.
So there's no regulation. There's nothing that requires them to do the math.
Right. There's no
Yeah.
enforcing them
So
to.
it
They're
basically
not,
reminds me of when my teacher was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna make boats out of whatever materials in the classroom, and whoever's doesn't sink wins." And like
that sounds like fun.
basically what they did, but they're like, "No, let's just go down to the Titanic and see if we implode or not."
That's basically, they basically were winging it. They're doing one of the most dangerous things you can do in the world and on this earth, and they were just kind of.
I'm just surprised that like nobody in there like questioned it at all. I would have been like, "This sounds horrible."
Yeah. Can I see the paperwork?
Yeah, I'm not a mathematician, but I need to see the equation.
Yeah. The way that you
I would never be the first to do it either.
the way you test things is things that are under strain is you put them under strain. Like you
test it with nobody in
test
there.
you weight test
Right.
things or pressure test things. Like
Right,
our
right,
recompression chambers and our cylinders and our they're pressure tested, or our umbilicals that we breathe off are pull tested and pressure tested. You have to test. You have to have something that's rated for that pressure, and you have to continually test and monitor and recertify.
So you heard about that when it happened?
I did. Yeah.
Did you already kind of guess that
Well,
it imploded?
I called my buddy and I was like, "Hey, we called this." I mean, I remember saying like a few months before, like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of accident in the underwater, recreational man submersible world. It's like, oh wow.
So you thought of that, yeah, in general terms.
Well, when he was working on that sub, like Trident submarines, I think are legit. They're actually pressure tested and engineered correctly.
Right. Or at least to the depth that they're going to go at.
To the depth that they're
Titanic
going to
is
go
like
at, yeah.
insanely,
Those can't go anywhere close to that depth. Like,
yeah.
they were just
It's
out
like
of.
insanely far down into
Yeah,
the
they were-
ocean.
I should know off the top of my head. It's early in the morning. I can't think
Yeah.
off the top.
I
of my
knew
head.
at some point probably from all my Googling.
I'm gonna Google it. Can I do it?
Yeah, do
I'm gonna
it.
derail the momentum of the podcast.
No. It doesn't derail anything. We Google things often to get the information. But Titanic is far down. Like, it would have been one thing if you were like, hey, you want to hop in this thing? It's only 30 feet down. I would have been like,
Yeah,
But for how deep, just the knowledge base of how deep the Titanic is, that is insane that anyone agreed to that. I would have been like, are you high?
I would not have got into that thing.
Has this ever done it before? That would have been my only question.
Yeah.
Has this ever done this before?
I don't have good service in
No,
here.
it's never done this before. I don't think I'm going to do it either.
I did the
that's
math on
scary.
it, the depth, and then the PSI that they were exposed to, and then like the amount of pressure per square inch on that material. Like it's very simple math.
Was it probably loud too then? Like right before it imploded? Like it probably sounded scary.
I would
Like
think. I
crackling?
would think that they probably.
Or maybe it was too
I would think that they
instantaneous.
probably died pretty fast. It probably was
Yeah.
just like
Way too
in a
instant.
flash. With that amount of pressure, it was probably like a bomb.
crazy.
Just, I mean, they might have gotten like leaks first. I don't know. I don't think they knew what hit them. To be honest, with that immense amount of pressure, I think they died pretty quickly. I'd assume.
Are they gonna ask you guys to go down there for that? They found a piece of it.
I saw
guess.
the piece that's kind of standing upright.
Yeah.
That's a little out of my reach.
That's
It
also
would have
too
to be,
deep, right?
well, it'd
There's
have
no
to be
way
an
you can-
ROV. There's no like human
Human.
body that could stand that pressure.
Right.
Ask the guys on the sub.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it just seems like just simple, like not just using materials that were not rated for a pressure.
Yeah.
I really think it's that simple and that stupid. Really.
I just would have hoped like a billionaire would have had enough common sense to be like, has this ever done
How do you
this
talk
before?
a billionaire into?
I don't know. That's what
yeah,
I'm
that's,
like.
I know that's what
what?
I'm amazed. You think they would have
This
more
makes
like
no sense.
a
I
sense
guess
of self-preservation?
manipulation.
Like
I don't
what?
know.
A Nintendo remote? Like, can I
get-
see your paperwork,
I think
buddy?
it was said that like the son didn't even want to go or something, but it was like I don't know. It was I don't want to quote it incorrectly. I don't know if it was like Father's Day or the father's birthday or something like
Ugh.
that. But
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's an inherently dangerous world down there. And it's
you're
not,
like I did the math on that.
Yeah, I just wish I could remember it off the top of my head. It's some just incredible amount of pressure.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
per-
let me
per
know.
Square inch.
Yeah, that's.
I'll put it in the comments. I'll figure it out when I get out of here.
Oh yeah,
I'll
yeah,
put it in
yeah.
the comments on the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So what did your friend say about? Has he gone down like in the ones that he works on or?
Mhm.
Does that scare you? Like well, I guess submarines wouldn't scare you if you dive.
No, it's pretty neat.
I think it will scare me now. Now I'm like traumatized from this Ocean Gate scenario.
Well, you just have to operate within like the certified operational limitations of that material. Just like
Yeah.
like
But
lifting a
now
load
if
with
somebody
the
asked me to go in a submarine, even if I know it works, I'm like
submarines
nah.
are kind of
It would freak me out now.
submarines are kind of freaky just in general. It's so unnatural. You just walk
Yeah, it's
around going about
strange.
your day, and it's like, geez, I'm really, really deep underwater in a steel tube. Submariners themselves are pretty strange people. Like guys that'll
Really?
want to, yeah, they're super weird, but they're awesome at the same time. They're
Like talking to whales and shit.
the sonar guys are the weirdest dudes in the world. Like I went into the sonar shack and I was like, hey, I want to see what you guys are doing, and they're guys that sit there and watch like little squiggly lines all day, and they're like, see these squiggly lines? Like that's shrimp, and like see this other one? That's a fishing boat,
It's quick
and they're like, oh, that's a whale, and it's like, and they're like, watch this, and they'll
You're like,
tap on the
cool,
hull with a
dude.
wrench, and then they're like, the little squiggly lines show up, and they're like, they can read squiggles. It's like, okay, man,
You're like, cool, dude.
I'm just gonna back out of here slowly. Do your thing.
Damn.
You bunch of weirdos. But no, they're super cool, and like watching submariners when they're in their element is like the coolest thing ever. It's probably like the most professional, like tightly run thing you're ever gonna see. Being on the bridge of a submarine, watching everybody in their positions, it's pretty neat. My hat's off to them. I have like nothing but respect for them, even though I like affectionately give them a lot of shit. I have a lot of respect for submariners, and I'm glad that there's people that want to do that as a career and spend
That's so
half their lives
interesting.
underwater half their lives on a submarine because it ain't
Yeah.
me. I've spent months and months at a time, and that's enough. It's kind of like imagine being on a airplane for like 6 weeks. Imagine a 6-week flight, except for all the luggage isn't in the compartment. It's
I feel like I could
in
do
there with you,
that.
and you have to climb over the luggage.
I think I could do that more than I could be underwater. I
Yeah.
think the idea, I don't know. Shoot, that's hard. Because the reason it's hard is because now I'm thinking about the fact that the airplane, like, airplane can't really physically do that unless it has enough fuel to last for weeks. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So like, but let's just say hypothetically,
Yeah, nuclear reactor. The only limiting
yeah.
limiting factor on a submarine is the food.
I don't know, because I would just be worried that the plane could crash.
It's like being on a plane. You
But
just
then
you
it's
just
like-
think like, well,
All of that scares me anyway because it's like you don't control it. Like there's somebody flying the plane. There's somebody controlling the sub. Like I don't
Yeah.
like that. That's why when I go out, I like to drive because I'm
Yeah,
I'm driving
absolutely.
myself there.
I absolutely know what you mean.
And then, yeah, I like the control of that. And then, because even if I go out with my friends, if I want to leave, I have to make sure he wants to leave to drive me home. So what if he doesn't want to leave, you know?
Right.
Then it's like, oh,
You're out of
I'm
control.
stuck. I don't like that. I mean, I could Uber, but
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
then the Uber guy's driving. What if he drives like a crazy person?
Being on a
That's
submarine,
definitely
you just
happened.
it's like being on a plane. You just got to put it out of your mind and just be like, okay, this is inherently dangerous, and I'm just not going to think about certain things. There was a really cool scene in
Man, I don't even like elevators.
God, what was that movie with the guy that played Neil Armstrong recently? I'm terrible about naming actors.
Do you think that the moon landing was real?
But there's a really cool scene in the movie
like-
about Neil Armstrong, and and there's all these like cameras clicking. We'll come back to that. Like all these camera clicking, you know, like, and all this fanfare and media and all this noise. And then he gets into his little capsule and he shuts the door, and he's just like sitting there, and it's all quiet, and he starts looking around at his little space capsule, and he's looking at the rivets, he's looking at the bolts, and he's looking at the viewports, and he's just I know, like, that was the
You know
best
that
scene
feeling.
ever, because, you know, being in a capsule, you know, like I've been in a habitat where, you know, there's just a few inches of steel, and then the other side is like the deep, dark ocean, you know, hundreds and hundreds of feet deep, and just all this pressure, and on the other side is death, you know, and you're just kind of sitting there, and it's just quiet, and you have nothing but time, and you're looking at the welds, and you're looking at the bolts, and you're just like, man, if this door would blow out, like,
Yeah, I always think about like how the people on the Titanic that like knew that they were dying, or like what they were thinking about in their like final moments. Or the people that just continued playing music.
but you're basically like you're at the mercy of that technology.
Crazy.
You know.
But what's even crazier is the people that survived.
Oh, the Titanic, my God.
That shit's even crazy. Like the people that were on the ship when it went down, and then they still somehow survived because like some lifeboats came back and like pulled a couple people out. It's insane.
Yeah, it's that cold water, I think, would be
The worst. Yeah, there's like a
scariest thing.
museum where they have a little pool of like the water, and they